San Francisco 49ers at SoFi Stadium. For more on that game, we have Steve Weish. Steve Weish is at SoFi Stadium on the field, reporting live for us there. Steve, what more can you tell us about who's playing tonight?
Well, Dan, 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan and Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh said the majority of starters will play at least a series tonight, and that includes both starting quarterbacks, Brock Purdy and Justin Herbert. But the story of this game centers around the Chargers' center position. In a joint practice between these two teams Saturday, starting center for the Chargers, Tyler Biadasz, suffered significant damage to ligaments in his knee when he was rolled up on, and he is out indefinitely. That is forcing rookie Jake Slaughter to move into that starting role. Now, Slaughter was a starting center at the University of Florida, but has spent the majority of the offseason and training camp competing for the starting left guard spot for the Chargers. But during the practice after the injury to Biadasz, he slid right over to center and performed well, which is why tonight getting those reps with Justin Herbert is significant, because he has not had a ton of reps with Herbert, again, because he was working at a different position. The one thing working in Slaughter's favor is at Florida, he played in this outside zone run scheme. It is a natural fit for him, and players have already said he's looked good and very comfortable in running this offense. And also for the 49ers, we're not going to see wide receiver Mike Evans, who in that practice Tuesday had some type of discomfort that the 49ers like to label tightness. So we're not going to see him tonight, even though we will see quarterback Brock Purdy, as I mentioned. Some other players to look out for is rookie wide receiver Dejon Stribling, the second-round pick who's been the talk of the Niners training camp, and also rookie running back Kalen Black. He had missed 2 weeks with an adductor injury, but he came back Tuesday, and he looked really powerful and really fresh. Some other Niners key players we're likely not going to see tonight are veterans like Trent Williams, Fred Warner, and as we know, running back Christian McCaffrey and Nick Bosa have been dealing with some issues and been out for more than a week in practice. So again, the majority of the starters are going to play, but the key one to watch is for that Chargers offensive line. Yeah, and a couple of fun-looking rookies on the 49ers side who so far have been somehow immune to the tightness epidemic that seems to have set in there in San Francisco. Thanks, Steve Weish. The Raiders, we are joined in a bit of a role reversal situation by Laura Rutledge, who usually is in here hosting this show. Tonight she's getting ready to cover the Raiders sideline for the game on ESPN. So, Laura, just how much should we expect to see of Fernando Mendoza on the field tonight?
Well, Graz, I like this role reversal. You're doing a great job in there. And when it comes to Fernando Mendoza, we're going to see a lot of him tonight. That is the plan. And I think the main thing to pay attention to is just the health of the O-lineman in front of him. They want to make sure he's protected. So they're going to do everything possible to maintain that. And either way, I think he's in a really good spot to show what he's made of out here. He had a nice preseason debut last week, and they're going to focus in on a few specific things. But one of them being something that we've talked a lot about on NFL Live, and that's his play under center and adjusting to that. It's not something he did a whole lot in college, as we've talked about, but last week he was under center 10 times and threw 7 passes from those situations. I think we'll see more of that tonight. When he talked about it, though, he said, look, it's not rocket science. He's done a lot in his career already. He's not fazed by things. Clint Kubiak saying they focused on it, but every time he gives coaching or feedback to Mendoza, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. He fixes it quickly. That's been impressive. And Mendoza said he's just got to pay attention mostly to what happens after the snap when it comes to under center, trying to make pass plays look like run plays, and vice versa. That's going to be a lot of what we'll see tonight as they continue to fine-tune an operation that they're feeling really good about. Yeah, on the other side, C.J. Stroud of the Texans looking to fix some things that went wrong at the end of last year. For him, how does Houston plan on using their quarterback tonight? We'll see C.J. Stroud a little bit tonight, not nearly as much as we'll see Fernando Mendoza, but he will be out there, and he's excited once again to continue to prove that what happened last season and the way that it ended is not who he is as a quarterback. He's worked a ton in this offseason. He's spent a lot of time in the weight room putting on muscle, but he said he did a lot of work on the mental side, trying to flush out whatever happened at the end of last year and really focus on starting fresh. But a couple things they did that I think we can try to notice tonight and definitely when the season starts. Nick Nick Caley said they tried to simplify things, take things that, were too complicated verbiage-wise and make them maybe a one-word play call. They're trying to make things a little more aggressive in the second year in Caley's offense and really put CJ in a place where not only can he receive the call quickly from his OC, but he can deliver it quickly to the offense, getting that sense of urgency going a little bit. And again, like I said, focusing on being aggressive, using their playmakers. They've been very impressed already by David Montgomery and really excited about incorporating him into this offense for CJ.
Thanks so much, Laura. We look forward to much more from Laura ahead of and during tonight's preseason game. Houston Texans won their final 9 games of the regular season last year, and C.J. Stroud looked poised for a playoff run, but it didn't go great. Stroud 5 fumbles against the Steelers in the first-round victory. That tied a playoff record, and then he threw 4 interceptions in the first half in Foxborough the next week, and the Houston Texans were eliminated by the New England Patriots. Those 4 interceptions in the first half tied for the most since the merger. So, Dan, what's the biggest concern you have for C.J. Stroud entering the season?
Laura hit on it. Just the mental. Is he able to flush that playoff stretch and obviously performance against New England? This is a Super Bowl caliber football team. I have said all offseason there's no quarterback under more pressure than C.J. Stroud. They get good quarterback play. This is a championship contending team. And the thing is, last season, his play was trending back to looking like that rookie year, and then it just fell apart. Are they able to rebuild him? This is a remade offensive line once again. They lost one of their bright stars and number 2 wide receiver, Jaden Higgins, yesterday to an ACL injury. That's a significant injury. But it really comes down to this. One of the bigger question marks in the league, I would say, is what version of C.J. Stroud do we get, not physically, but mentally?
Look, the pressure, Graz, is already on him because of how he finished last season. But when you're drafted 3rd overall and you're waiting for that contract, but the 2nd overall pick, Will Anderson, you're the 2nd overall pick, but the 3rd overall pick, Will Anderson, gets the most money ever paid by a defensive end in the history of football. And when he gets that contract, it starts to make you wonder, well, what about me? And every time there's an interception, every time there's an incomplete, every time there's voices in the media, it's going to come back to the contract. The fact that the Texans, who we have spoken about all offseason, take care of their own, the fact that they haven't taken care of Stroud yet is a lingering and looming storyline that is going to hover around this quarterback and this team the entire 2026 NFL season. So I hope he comes out fast. I hope they come out and succeed early, because these type of things start to take on a life of their own if they don't. Everything I've heard from that organization is it's been great and it's been as good as you could possibly imagine. That said, they were saying the same thing last offseason, and it didn't go that way in Nick Caley's first year as offensive coordinator.
Peter, you bring up the contract, and the Houston Texans have had discussions with C.J. Stroud about a new deal. My understanding is they're not close at this particular time. Talks will continue. We'll see if they're able to get anything done by the time the season begins or shortly thereafter. What's interesting here is after this season, there are going to be a group of quarterbacks in line for extensions, a la Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix, where you're going to see some enormous prices paid for quarterbacks. The prices of quarterbacks, as we know for all players, is always going up, especially a quarterback. So if the Texans and C.J. Stroud can't get a deal done in the coming weeks and C.J. Stroud lights it up, the price is going way up. If he doesn't light it up, then obviously the Texans are in a situation where they may have to find another quarterback. But it creates a really interesting situation tied to his contract where there are talks going on, and we'll see if they can figure out something before the season begins that is in the best interest of both sides with all that's ahead.
Such a great point.